I think it's absolutely asinine for us as an industry to be helping people and not guarantee our pay up until the closing day. And if the buyer doesn't end up closing, we don't get paid. What are we doing? Having a very strategic sniper approach to your business and who you are is, I think, when as real estate agents, like doctors don't need to do this. Lawyers don't need to, they're so niche specific. The best gift that I think you can give yourself right now is hiring an outside help to help you figure out who you are. Because a lot of times we're too close to the trees to see it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Glenda's Guru. I got to tell you, I am with my girlfriend today, Holly Meyer Lucas out of Jupiter, Florida. And this is kind of interesting. So Holly and I, we've kind of known of each other in the real estate industry for several years. And I guess it was a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, we met at a female conference in Boca, correct?
Yes.
At FAU, is that right?
Yes, we did.
Oh,
yep.
Okay. And we were on a panel together, and we actually did one of the very first Glennda Gurus with Holly. What I didn't realize when we taped that Glenda's Guru was that we were outside and we were literally in a wind tunnel. And so all you could see was our mouths moving. You could not hear one single word of anything that we said. And I have been meaning to get Holly back on my Glenda's Guru podcast because she truly is a guru in so many different arenas. And I love kind of the way that she does her business. But, you know, Holly, for the people who don't know you, for the people who you haven't crossed their Instagram page, you haven't crossed their path, tell it, how long have you been in real estate? Where are you in real estate? What do you focus on?
Yeah, that's so funny. I completely forgot about that. And actually that's like, I forgot we did that. And
Wow.
It's funny because right now I'm kind of obsessed with, when it comes to like content creation, I'm obsessed with the fact that I think that, the notion of like done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
I actually think it's the opposite of that. Like, I think that we have gotten real cute with putting stuff out on the interwebs that is like not polished and not done. Like, I think, and particularly when you're creating content, if your audio isn't right and tight, the content is garbage, in my opinion. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. And I think that's because people listen even when they're not watching. A lot of people are taking it in audibly. Yeah. And not just watching the content. And I think that a lot of agents are consumed with, my hair looks great. My makeup looks really good. I'm in front of this beautiful house. And then literally they're in a wind tunnel, or they're using the mic from their phone and you can't even hear them.
Anyone that works in media at all will tell you the audio is the most important thing. And if you don't have great audio, like you can almost trash it. And it's funny because I can't even remember what you and I talked about. I mean, there's so many parallels to our businesses, but also not. Like, the thing that I love. So I'm a team leader here in Jupiter, Florida. I've been in real estate for 10 years. I got started in real estate because my husband was playing baseball, and I left the corporate career and left a very good job in the corporate career. And when I jumped into real estate, I was like, I am not going to be doing real estate as a part-time gig like some people do. Like, I jumped in head freaking first, and I was dead determined to sell a certain amount within my first year. And then I started my team pretty much immediately. I have 30 agents here. I bought a building. We're very, very, I keep my agents under 30 specifically so that we can have like a family style team environment. It's really important to me that my team is like a family, because I also am no longer in production. So my team works with all of our clients directly with me. So us having a very intimate group is important. But I started out, the thing that put me arguably on the map, as they say, is I worked with a lot of professional athletes and celebrities in the Jupiter area. And I got a lot of press very early in my career, almost undeserved. That's kind of like my imposter syndrome speaking there. And so I had to almost claw my way into this like top producer category from a position of defense. Does that make sense? I feel like is this relatable? I feel like your content, and I've been meaning to ask you this in person, your content blew up so fast. and put you like rocket ship to the moon so fast, where I'm sure you were showing up at conferences and people like were approaching you like they knew you, right?
Yeah.
How did you, was that hard for you?
It will. What's was so strange, and what is still so strange to me, is that my audience feels like they know me.
Yes.
And so when they approach me, it's from this level of familiarity that is not reciprocated, because
Yes.
I have no idea who you are. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't know them. And so
Yeah.
that was what's been so difficult. And like, my son works at a very upscale restaurant in Buckhead here in Atlanta. And Friday night, he sends me a text message and he's like, "Hey, one of my customers is a Glennda, and she follows you on Instagram." And so this lady, who I do not know, who is a real estate agent, says, "Oh my gosh, you're Lucas, Glennda Baker's son." And he's like, "I am." And he's like, "How do you know my mom?" And she goes, "I'm a real estate agent, but she has no idea who I am." And so my daughter and I, we were talking about it this weekend, and she goes, "Wow, that lady really had to be doing a deep dive to be able
Yeah.
to recognize Lucas like off the street." So they have this level of familiarity. And that, when you get a lot of press, when you get a lot of spotlight, when you get a lot of coverage, people either they think that they know you, or they have this preconceived notion of who you are.
Yes.
And sometimes it's easy peasy lemon squeezy because you already have the credibility. And sometimes it's super difficult because the preconceived notion that they have is either inaccurate or blown up in such a way that you don't either meet their expectation, or you walk in and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're exactly like you are on social media." So it's,
Yes.
it's a very interesting dynamic. But luck up for me, I mean, you've met me in person many times. We've been in shared the same stage many times. So you know that what you see on my videos is exactly
100%.
what you see in person. And I think
Yeah.
that probably makes it easier for me. It's just, the familiarity is not reciprocal when I meet
It's
with
weird.
people. Yeah.
It's weird. It's a very it's so interesting that you said that. So and my content has like what I have for the last 10 years, who I am online that's kind of what I'm known for. Like my authenticity and just putting it all out there. Like I am who I am, take it or leave it, right? But when I first got like this first big round of press, what was being put out about who I was working with and like these luxury high-end homes that I was selling was misaligned with who I actually am to some extent. And it was really nerve-wracking for me. And I can share this now. At the time, I wouldn't be caught dead set admitting this, but at the time it was like I had to walk the walk and talk the talk of a luxury real estate agent. And Glennda, like I didn't experience matters in real estate. And if you make anything the freaking headline for this podcast, like experience matters. And at the time I didn't have a ton of experience. So anyway, I had to kind of claw my way out of that weird, like personal brand misalignment. And then I found my stride and everything's Gucci now. But as a result of that, I've had to, and this is kind of why I feel like this is relatable for you. I've had to be very, very, very careful about what I put out online and what I say. And from a very early part of my career where it's almost like this. And I don't know if have you experienced this, where it's like, there's an analysis paralysis that exists when you're highly exposed very quickly. And all of a sudden it's like, well, what do I share now? And who am I now? And what do people care about now? Like, why are people paying attention to me?
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah. But anyway, so as a result of that, I started last year, I bought a building and I started a creative agency and a personal brand agency specifically to help people with this, because it's something that I have become really, really passionate about. So I have the real estate business and then my creative agency as well.
Well, I saw you. It's so funny that you say that. I saw you when you bought that building online. I saw you on the ladder and doing, a photo shoot and talking a little bit about this creative agency. And I love, love, love that you really have kind of honed in on this masterful art that you have of creativity and branding, because you really you really were one of the first agents to kind of hone in on a brand. Not a lot of agents, 10 years ago were
Yeah.
focused on brand.
I had to because I was labeled, and thank you for saying that, but I was labeled as this like luxury agent who works with all these athletes. And meanwhile, I don't know that that is the brand that I would have chosen necessarily. Was it awesome for my business? Fuck yeah, it was. Like I made a lot of money off of that, but I had
Yeah.
to almost retroactively undo what, and initially when I started, like I thought that I needed to be, and you've heard me say this 100, it's funny, you and I, because we share the stage often, like we have the same,
Yeah.
I feel like you've heard me say this 1,000 times, but I'm saying it anyway. I had this brand that was like all like stuffy. And I mean, I'm showing up on a podcast right now with arguably like the most famous quote unquote person in real estate. And I'm like, who am I? Where, like, this is how I'm showing up. Would I have been caught dead like this 10 years ago? No, because I didn't know who I was. And now I'm so confident in who I am that I'm like, I can't see you. Dude, my eyes are going, by the way. If you're listening to this on like a podcast style, I just put on some glasses because I can't see. I'm 37, girl. The peepers that we now do, I need them. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Anyway, so figuring out what your personal brand is, like, I mean, your personal brand is it's so strong and it's so like exactly who you are. But to your point, it's people struggle with it. And I think the best gift that I think you can give yourself right now is, and I'm not saying this because it funnels like any sort of business opportunity for me. I think it is hiring an outside help to help you figure out who you are. Because a lot of times we're too close to the trees to see it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. One of, and I would say arguably the best time that I spent was with a business consultant.
Oh, you had one?
And I flew and I sat down with her for a day. And, I mean, I had her for the whole day and she sat down with me and we were chatting and she goes, so, tell me, who are you? Like, who are you? And I told her and she said, okay, great. And she said, and how do you impact people? And I told her, and she goes, okay, great. She's like, this is your brand. This is your brand alignment.
Do you know how many people can't answer that question?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, but she said to me,
are you?
I told her, I said, I'm really having a difficult time figuring out what to say yes to and what to say no to. Mm-hmm. And she said to me, she goes, well, first off, we need to figure out who you are and what you're all about. And then we need to figure out what you want to do with who you are and what you're all about. And she said, and then once we figured that out, she said, anything that doesn't fall under this umbrella is a no.
When did you do that?
I did it in October of 2022. In October of 2022, I sat down with her and she was arguably the most pivotal person in my business as far as helping me figure out sequencing events, what to say yes to, what to say no to, and really how to define my brand.
Yeah.
And I think that it's so critical because if you're throwing everything against the wall and trying to, grab everything, you're literally spastic. Like nobody's going to take you seriously.
That's so validating hearing you say that. In the real estate world in particular, it is very, we can be very polarizing as an industry where most of us didn't start out in real estate originally. So most of our sphere knows us as something else to begin with. And so if you're Nurse Betty and all of a sudden you're selling real estate, and by the way, you also are a good designer. And so you're helping people with design stuff in there, like it's too much for people. So being really having a very strategic sniper approach to your business and who you are is, I think, when as real estate agents, like doctors don't need to do this. Lawyers don't need to, they're so niche specific that they don't need to define their personal brand. They absolutely should. but they don't have to how we do, because we're all multi-potentialites. Like if I were to drop you into a Fortune 500 company, I have no doubt you'd be the CEO in 5 seconds, right? Like we're all multi-potentialites. So we're all good at a lot of things. And
Yeah.
so for the public, like we need to hone in on what we are. And I think people, to your point and to what this rabbit hole I'm going down, it just defining that. I think it's that question, who are you? What value do you bring to the table? There's so many questions that you can ask yourself that I would argue 99% of agents don't know how to answer. And I was one of them back in the day.
So Holly, so let me ask you a question. So we saw each other at Inman this last summer, a couple months ago, and you were the moderator on several different panels. And, you know, I mean, obviously you shine on the stage in any capacity that you're in, but
Thanks.
I have to tell you, I really loved watching you be the Oprah. I loved watching you kind of tee up the narrative, especially of this the new NAR policies. And I really, I'm not talking about them as a lawsuit. I'm not talking about them as a settlement. I really am just referring to them as new NAR policies. Do you think that they're helpful to the industry as a whole, or do you think that they're hurtful? Let's talk about the consumer first off. Do you think that they're helpful or hurtful towards the consumer?
I think that the overall point of all of this is it is mission critical for our industry to reform. I think it is absolutely asinine. And I've been saying this for years. If you remember back in our Clubhouse days, I was pretty outspoken about this. My team does not represent both parties in the same side in a transaction ever. And that's something I've been doing for a decade. Very specifically because I feel like the transparency involved, you talk about fiduciary, blah, 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 whatever. We're allowed to do it in Florida. We're allowed to have dual agency here. But I always feel like the consumer does not feel fully represented in both sides if they're being represented by the same person. So I'll typically put one person, if a buyer comes to us directly, I'll put them with someone else on my team, whatever. Going back to the NAR stuff, I think it is absolutely asinine that we as real estate agents put people in our cars, drive them around with no guarantee of being paid. So that's one thing. I have been trying, and successfully, by the way. I just charged my first retainer, and it's been, have you tried to do that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm obsessed with it. Obsessed with it. We finally just did it successfully for the first time. I've been wanting to do it for years, and we finally have done it. And it was the most easy peasy lemon squeezy thing. Easy meaning asking for it and the person saying, yes, that makes sense. Like, yeah, why are we not doing that? Why are we not doing that? So 2 things. I think it's absolutely asinine for us as an industry to be helping people and not guarantee our pay up until the closing day. And if the buyer doesn't end up closing, we don't get paid. What are we doing? What were we doing, I should say? On the flip side of that, I think it's absolutely asinine for us to get to the closing table with a buyer and have the buyer not know that we're not getting paid, and have them not have a full understanding of how we're paid, what we're paid. Like, why are we not being, I think transparency is 1,000,000% how every business should be run. If you're transparent, it's like you give people the cards on the table and let them choose what game they want to play. And if you want to play that game back, then that's what we're playing. If we're playing gin rummy, we're playing gin rummy, right? I think the NAR lawsuit, I think the way that it was handled and the schematics of the whole like nitty gritty detail of it is all garbage. However, I do think it's forcing our industry to reform, and I'm so here for it.
You know what? You said a lot of things, and I'm going to hit on several of them. So, and I will tell you right now, I agree with you 100% about reform and transparency. We do not represent the buyer and the seller in the same transaction. When we have a listing, it is very clear in our contract that we represent the interest of the seller. I think that you're exactly right that how do you get the seller the most money and the buyer the best deal in the same transaction? I think that that's extremely difficult. There is a huge case right now in Florida where an agent had the listing, also represented the buyer, and the seller felt like that the buyer could have paid list price for the house and that they didn't, that their agent was working against them. And not only did they have the means to do that, they also had the motivation to do it.
The guy that held out when Disney was buying everything, the reason the guy made the most money that held out, the one that when Walt Disney was buying everything for Disney World, right? There was a guy that held out and he made the most money because he uniquely was positioned. It's the same exact thing. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about here, Google the Jeff Bezos Elliman lawsuit and you'll find it. I think that is the best example. And that seller is dead ass right for holding them accountable. And the reason I started doing this to begin with, and I feel like you're probably on the same page with this, I started doing that to begin with where I don't represent both sides because I like having clients that send me business. And I have felt I have 4 times in my career, I've sold 1,000 houses, 4 times in my career where I have represented both sides. And all 4 of those parties, which is actually 8, right? Buyers and sellers, all 8 of them, I would argue, didn't feel like I did them justice. If you pulled any of them, like they're all like hugs and hand pounds, but I would guarantee if you got nitty gritty with them, they would say, yeah, it wasn't cool. Yeah. And I hate that. I don't want that.
When you're dealing with people's money, they, and there's never a problem till there's a problem. That's the thing, is there's never a problem till there's a problem. And that is, I will tell you, the slipperiest slope that you can get on, in my opinion, as a real estate agent. The other thing that you talked about was transparency. When you bring value to the table, you have no qualms about being transparent about what you charge. And especially when you're dealing in the high end, I almost think that it's better for the buyer to pay your fee on the buy side. Because when you're dealing with $1 million, $5 million on a house, and you're looking at X% in commission, if the buyer just pays that, especially if they're paying cash, if they pay that on the buy side and it's not included in the sales price, then probably their tax basis is lower.
Yes. It's so funny. I say this, the smartest. And so in our market, I'm in the Palm Beach area, Jupiter, but Palm Beach area. It's a very, very educated, affluent community here who get tax bases, who get that. And when I sold a $20 million property, and you bet we pulled all the commissions and all the net. It's a net sale, right? Because they understand how that works. And I think one of the things that's cool about the lawsuit and the changes that are being made is we have an opportunity to really educate people on like how that's structured now. Not for nothing, a $20,000 commission coming out of let's say you're buying a house for $450, taking that down to $430, like that's not for nothing money,
Yeah, exactly. And people do not understand that then you can always use the commission that you paid on the closing statement from your cost basis. So it's not like you're going to get taxed more when you go to sell, because you can show where you actually did pay that on your closing statement. It's always so interesting to me, though, that agents that they want to hide.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want the buyer to know how much money I'm getting paid.
Yes. What are we doing? What, like, do you do this for a living? I do. Do you? Well, I get paid. Do you get paid?
This is the thing that I'll never ever forget this. There was a case here in Atlanta with an athlete, and he spoke with an attorney, and the attorney said, "Hey, I will take your case. It's going to cost you $1 million up front." And the guy had the $1 million. He was a big athlete here in Atlanta. And he said, "Are you going to guarantee me that I'm going to win?" And he goes, "There are no guarantees." He goes, "But I know that I have the expertise to, do the best job for you." And he's like, "Well, if I don't win, will you give me back the money?" And he said, "Absolutely not." And that guy turned around and went to another attorney who charged him a lower fee. And that guy ended up going to jail. Now, who knows if he would have gone to jail with this other attorney, but this other attorney had such a track record of his expertise where these other people did not. And that's the thing, is like, you've got to go back. I was talking with another agent, and we saw something on Instagram, and she posted a comment on this about somebody who was going after these big listings that didn't always list big listings, and was talking about, X number of houses have sold when your home didn't sell. And you and I both know that when you go on the listing appointment and you say, hey, did you know that 6 houses sold and your home didn't sell? The first thing that seller is going to say is, how many of those 6 houses did you sell?
Yep.
The second thing that seller is going to say is, did you have the buyer for any of those 6 houses?
Yep.
And so you've really got to have a track record typically of success when you're dealing in these higher price range, whether you're representing a seller or a buyer. But I think with the NAR, case studies are going to be more important than ever. Being able to show a buyer, being able to show a seller how you helped someone in a similar situation to them, and how you earned your fee, and how you charged your fee, and how you earned it.
100%. There's this part from, remember the movie 8 Mile? There's the I guess I'm not giving anything away here because it's an old movie, but at the end when Eminem is up against the other guy, right? And he, in this like rap battle, he reveals Eminem says every single thing, that like his mom is in a trailer, his mom is an addict, like he is short, he is white. And in this battle, the other rapper who's supposed to be dissing him and is supposed to be like coming for him has nothing left to say, because Eminem was transparent about it. Like, it is what it is. Yeah. Call my mom a whore. She is. Next question, please. Right. Yeah. And I think that the approach so in real estate, I think we, especially new agents, and I was guilty of this back in the day too, like we want buyers so bad to work with us. And it's like at the expense of what? Getting paid, or talking about getting paid. I mean, that's how a lot of agents go about it. And so I think what this is doing is it's forcing us to have the conversation up front, which is what we should be doing. We should be disclosing to everybody what we're getting paid, what our fees are, and also, not for nothing, like the value that a real estate agent brings to the table. And I've said this, I feel like this is like old news at this point. We're recording this in late September. I think knowing what your value is baseline. Like, you should know how to go into a listing presentation the same way you go into a first conversation with a buyer.
All day, every day, and twice on Sunday. But I think a lot of agents future trip, because they're like, okay, this person's going to buy $1 million home. I'm going to make this much money. I can buy this new car. I can buy this new handbag. I can, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that with the money. It was so funny. I never will forget. Who was it that asked me? Somebody asked me, once upon a time I sold a big house, I made $137,000. Yeah. And one of the things, I bought a car, I bought a new wardrobe. And one of the things that I've never talked about was I didn't pay my taxes.
Oh, I love this topic. Oh my God, I love this topic.
I mean, agents are so guilty of,
yes,
they spend the commission when they list it. They spend the commission when it goes under contract. They spend the commission when they sell it. Tell me, did you ever like think through that, or at the time that you got into real estate at 27 years old, were you mature enough to understand money?
I don't know that. Okay. I love this topic. Because I have agents in my office about once a year that will come in and be crying to me, asking me for a loan because they didn't make their payments. And the IRS is knocking, asking for money. Don't make that mistake. Bottom line, like TLDR, don't make that mistake. Pay your taxes, pay it quarterly, figure out how to do it. Like, that's bottom line. I will say that for me personally, and this is going to be very relatable for any of your older millennial audience people. My parents lost everything in the recession, like house, business, everything, when I was in college. And two things. One, it made me like, I know, and you know this too, I know what it's like to have $0 in my bank account and not have a parent be able to pull me out of it. And the $33 that Wells Fargo charges me every time because I'm overdrafting my account, like that was my life in late high school, college. And so I am a nut job when it comes to making sure that my money and my finances are right and tight, because I had to be. Put myself through school as a bartender, which is a cash heavy business, or, you have tons and tons of cash, especially in Knoxville, Tennessee. Like, by the way, how was that concert?
Oh my God.
So good. I'm so jealous. So jealous. I was living so vicariously. Like, oh, was it so good?
Holly, I have to tell you, y'all, for those of you who came here to listen to real estate, you're just going to, if just go ahead and you can fast forward through this part.
Give us 5 minutes.
I'm telling you right now, you want to talk about somebody who understands their audience.
Yes.
Morgan Wallen understands who he's playing to. Like, he understands his audience. And, he's not a looker,
No,
I mean,
no. But he also understands who he's not playing to. Like, talking about personal brand, going back to that, almost intentionally alienating an audience in the interest of gaining another.
100%.
It's brilliant. He is brilliant. Brilliant.
He's going deep with the people who love him.
Yeah.
And, we were almost in tears. He was so humble. He talked about his grandma. He talked about his mom. He talked about his sisters. If you could just have heard the earnest. And he got down on his haunches. And so he was really close to the audience. And he had this set built also that was a replica of his grandma's house. And he just talked about the influences that being, born and raised in Knoxville, the good, the bad, and the ugly, about, switching, getting, his ass whooped, by his grandma, getting switched, getting, his grandma gave him his first cigarette. His grandma gave him his first whiskey, and just, it was so heartwarming. The way that he talked with love and earnest.
Sincerity, authenticity. He's authentic.
Sincerity and things that were so important to him.
This concert was in Knoxville at Neyland, which is, Neyland Stadium is like the stadium in the SEC. It's one of the biggest stadiums, but it's also like so important in his life, like because of Tennessee football, right?
Yeah.
And the authenticity, I couldn't get enough of it. The authenticity around how much I feel like every clip I saw, you could tell how much it meant to him and how much he was going to deliver. My first listing ever was my first $1 million listing was from a friend who was a baseball player, played with my husband, and they knew because I told them I needed that sale. I wanted it. I needed it. I was going to work backwards, forward, side. I was going to do backflips for them. And they ended up giving it to me because I told them I wanted it. And sometimes when you're trying to break into luxury, especially, I tell agents this all the time, when you're breaking into luxury, sometimes act like you've been there before when you have. Make sure people know that you have been there before when you have. But when you haven't, there is a seller out there who's going to give you that opportunity because you want it so bad. That speaks to my heart. And it's funny seeing Morgan Wallen there and Neyland. He's a superstar, right? But it still was it seemed so humbling. It seemed like he was so humbly entertaining this crowd and just brought it with the fury of 1,000 suns.
Yeah, he was amazing. You said, you're going to walk in one day and a seller is going to bet on you, not because of your experience, but because they believe in you.
Yeah.
And I remember when I sat down with Tim, and I was interviewing for this $5 million listing. And I remember that was the feeling that I got from them, was that Tim and Robin, they believed in me. They bet on me. And that feeling of just having somebody believe in you almost more than you believe in yourself.
Yes.
And sellers, buyers, listen to me right now. This is not for real estate agents. This is for buyers and sellers. If you want a real estate agent to work their brains out for you, then believe in them. Bet on them, double down on them. If you will do that with your agent, you will most likely find somebody who is willing to move heaven and earth to get your home sold or get you the home of your dreams. To me, it's those sellers. We've all had that
Amen.
Seller that is just it's like pulling teeth out of a rattlesnake. It's so difficult, and you dread
teeth out of a rattlesnake. I'm sitting here agreeing with you. I've heard that before. I'm like, yes, it is like pulling teeth out of a rattlesnake.
I'm serious. Literally, your phone rings and it's them, and you're like, I can't do it today. Yeah. You don't want to deal with it. It's so funny. I had a seller this year, and they wrecked me. It was so bad. And
I know the feelings, sister.
Finally, I said, you know what? I'm not the right agent for you. I'm going to let you have your listing back and list it with somebody else. And they listed it with another agent that I know, not really even a friend, but and that we work in the same market, and we're acquaintances and colleagues. And and she was there, and she gave them back the listing, and I sent her a text. And I said, should we trauma bond over 123 Banana Street?
I have been there, and it's so funny. It's a very similar story. This girl, she is my girl. She took over a listing that we walked away from, and I texted her, or she texted me and was like, hey, just so you know, Ted just hired us. Just want to give you a heads up. And I was like, girl, if you want my photos, we had to stage the shit out of this house, and they were so difficult to work. Like, you can have every single photo that's already staged. Like, you can put your own spin on it, because I know how hard this is going to be for you. And it's so funny afterward. Like, you kind of question, I mean, in real estate, you question your sanity, right? Like, sometimes you're like, is it me? Am I the problem? Like, is it me? And I swear to God, when you have one of those validating moments where you're like, oh no, it wasn't me. Okay, cool.
She responded back, and she goes, my team and I, my entire team and I are all in PTSD therapy.
Yes. Dude, it's crazy how so many people, like, real estate. Okay, so you and I have obviously worked with a lot of people. It's crazy how wild some people are. Like, just how some people do business, or like how they think that they can treat people. It's like if you take a step back and you unpack some of the trauma that you just kind of, like, because after a home sells, you just kind of move in real estate. You kind of move on to the next one. You try to move on if it went sideways, right? But sometimes you just sit there and you go, damn, that was weird. Like, that was very, very weird. I just walked away from a $11 million listing, specifically because the owner was asking us to do some shady, weird stuff. And I just unpacked it with my team recently, like all the things that they were asking us to do. And it's some just illegal, straight up illegal stuff. And I am now in a place in my real estate career where I have walked away from a $11 million listing, and I'm happy over it. I'm content with it. Like, I don't need it. Don't want it. Can't do it. Give me the next one.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, sometimes the mental warfare is just, it's just not worth it. So, Holly, let me ask you a question. If you could tell Holly on her first day, if you could go back and you could talk to yourself with all of your experience and everything that you've seen, if you could go back, what would you tell yourself on day one, month one? What would you say?
Oh, I love this question. First of all, don't buy the leads. Don't do it. Don't do it. Zillow leads were good, but the other lead platforms, don't buy them. But I would go back and I would tell her that you're going to be successful. Like, it's going to work. I think so many real estate agents ditch a career that real estate's so interesting, especially for women, right? So I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I couldn't travel anymore for work because of what my husband did. So real estate was like the next natural fit. It like made sense. And I've always said, I own a marketing company that specializes in selling homes then, because I love marketing, right? Whatever. However, you end up finding real estate, if you're a teacher, there's so many different walks of life that end up in real estate, right? What is yours? I feel like I should know this. What did you do before real estate?
I designed and manufactured ladies' clothing.
Oh, that's right. I knew that. Oh, that's so fun. I love that. Anyway, so many women and men, but women go into real estate because they've had a life change. They've had a kid, they've had, whatever. And it's so nerve wracking because you don't have a guaranteed paycheck. And so, but I'm telling you, and if you are a newer real estate agent, or if you're in a slump, or if you're in a ditch of production right now, if you do the work, if you host the open houses, if you talk to people, do those two things for me: host open houses and talk to people. Talk to your sphere, talk to your cousins, talk to your aunts, talk to people. You will sell a house. And I think if I could go back and tell myself like that it's going to be okay, I feel like I could have exhaled a little bit.
Well, it's funny. Tom Ferry used to always say, show me a woman in her 40s, divorced with children, and I'll show you the next real estate superstar.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I think it's the honest to God truth. I can't tell you. I mean, especially now that I've been through that era of my life, it's so interesting to me that there's a level of motivation when you have children that there isn't anything that compares to that as a motivating factor, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think the thing with kids, so it's two things. It's one that you want to provide for them and you will, take a bullet for them, right? But I think the other thing that a lot of people don't talk about is that your time is so mother trucking limited. So when you do have, like, my agents that have kids, I love an agent that's like, I love a divorcee. Like, I love that. One of the
Yeah.
most powerful, literally, I mean, that's, give me that all day long because they're so conscious of their time. One of the most powerful moments of my career was when I pulled into my office. This was 4 or 5 years ago. And my parking lot was brand new cars, and they were brand new minivans. It was Tahoes and minivans and Escalades. And it was all the mom bosses on my team that had been able to upgrade out of their, Honda Civics into these minivans, which for their families. But I think time management is what divorcees have down pat. If you're dropping your kids off and you get to the office at 8 a.m., you got from 8 a.m. to 2:30 and you have to be leaving at 2:31 to go get your kid, you're going to be so freaking productive during that time frame.
It's the truth. There is nobody more militant with their time than a mom. Yeah. I mean, because you got to get so much done in such a small period of time. You just had a baby. Finally, you had a girl, for God's sake.
I did, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, because you got 3 boys, right?
I do. I have 3 boys, and And let me tell you, when the girl was doing the ultrasound, so this was not a planned pregnancy. I feel like I can say that. Very much not. I mean, I'm 37 years old. Like, damn. But when the girl was doing the ultrasound, I was like, you got to lie to me. If this is another boy, I mean, you lie to me and tell me it's a girl. So luckily it was a girl.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So being a mom, 4 kids, goodness gracious, and your boys are in playing sports and running around like, busy. Mm-hmm. Obviously that it's possible to have it all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is. Great marriage,
make it
great
work.
Family.
My marriage.
Awesome
okay. So
business.
I'm pretty outspoken about this. My marriage works because my husband and I are not in the same place a lot. So he works in baseball. He works with the San Francisco Giants, and he is gone half the year. He's gone right now. He's gone half the year. I am a solo mom half the year and over half the year. And I say solo mom. I'm not by any means a single mom. I don't take that. I don't know how in the actual heck women raise children by them like that. I have so much respect for that. Like, in my soul. I mentioned earlier, I put myself through school. Like, I've been on my own, very independent. Like, if I go and I need a new car, for example, I'm going to go buy a new car. Like, I'm not going to consult my husband on if that's what we're doing. Like, I'm just going to go do it. Same thing with our bank account. Like, I do everything. And we both just kind of operate in silos of each other. And I'm pretty outspoken about this because I think people see like that I have, now 4 kids, that I have this marriage, and it works because I do a lot myself. Like, I'm just like that. I'm just an independent person. And so is he. With my kids, I have a nanny. Like, I have an au pair that usually lives with us. I have a nanny. I have help. I don't cook. I don't clean. I don't do laundry. And I'm outspoken about that because I think it's important for women to see how productive I am and know those things. And I'm not sitting here hiding behind this facade that I'm doing laundry. And I said earlier, and I need to correct myself, by the way, I said earlier that, I showed up for this Glennda Baker podcast looking a little like and it's literally because I'm doing the best that I can right now, not because I don't want to show up for you. Right. But sometimes you just have to show up how you show up and outsource things when you can outsource them. It's expensive though. It's expensive to outsource stuff. So I always say, like, if you can get anyone to help you that is a house manager, like if funds are tight, if you can get anyone to help you one day a week as a house manager to just come in and do your laundry and meal prep for you, start with that. Like, pay someone a couple $100 to come in and just house prep for you, and then add progressively, give yourself days back as you go. How did you do it with your kids? Did you have a nanny?
No, I didn't have any help, but I literally dropped my kid just exactly what you said. I dropped them at 8:06, and by 8:15, I was in my office. If my office was in my home, I was back home working, and I worked literally until 2:21, and they picked them up at 2:30. And I did that every day, Monday through Friday. I got up early in the mornings on Saturday. I got up early in the mornings on Sunday. I mean, it's so funny because Victoria was showing a house and the key didn't work, and she crawled in through the window. And the buyer sent me a text message and said, "You will not believe this, but Victoria crawled in the window to get us into this house." And I said, "Oh, I believe it." And they said, we about passed out when they told us that you had pushed her through a window at 13 to do the same exact thing. And I mean, I remember one of the most vivid memories of my life is when we had gone to church. I had a listing appointment, and the house was close to the church. And rather than take the kids home and drop them and then drive all the way back to the house, I thought, okay, I'll just go right after church. So I had Victoria and Lucas in the car. It's not hot. It's not summertime. It's also not freezing. They're not going to be frostbit. I go in, and I'm going to go into this listing appointment, and we drive up, and Victoria says, "Oh no, it's synthetic stucco." And it was so
Yes,
crazy.
it is.
I went on a listing appointment. Lucas was a baby. He was in his car seat. And I said, "Victoria, look, I'm going to run in, and I'll be right back. Just sit where I was in a neighborhood that I knew. I knew tons of people in this neighborhood." And Victoria and Lucas sat in the car, and the sun changed, and I had the windows down. The sun changed directions, and Lucas got hot, and Victoria took all of his clothes off. And I come back to the car, and he is naked, and they are both like sweaty. And I'm like, "What is going on?" And she goes, "He got hot, so I took his clothes off." My kids, we depended so much on each other. I think I depended on them as much as they depended on me.
I think there's a scrappiness. I feel it, and I can see it in your soul. There's a scrappiness that anyone listening to this, like if you want to be successful, like being gritty, being scrappy, no matter what that looks like for you, your version of that is different than my version, but scrappy, I feel it in my core. And I feel like that's why, like, you gravitate toward your people. I'm in the Palm Beach area where there's a lot of silver spoony, and I say that endearingly, a lot of trust fundy type. Like I don't love working with people like that, because that's not like I will, but it's not me. Like it's not how so a lot of my clients by design kind of are entrepreneurs, like scrappy entrepreneurs who have clawed their way to the top, and they hire me because they see that like your story just now makes me want to send you every shred of Atlanta business. I mean, I do anyway, but any shred of Atlanta business that I have, like, because it's like, I see you working. And so, and not for nothing, that's my like phrase of the day. I've said that like 10 times today, not for nothing. If you have a similar story to this, like if this is speaking to your soul, share that, share that story, that vulnerability that Glennda just shared. And like, I talk about a lot. I talk about how my parents, lost their home during the recession, because it's relevant to how millennials are buying homes right now. But if you have a similar story, share it. People will hire you because you're gritty, not because you're pretending to be something that you're not. Give me feedback about how your kids, because I would be remiss not to use the opportunity to ask you, have your kids ever mentioned being resentful for being raised in the backseat of your car? Like, no,
it probably exactly the opposite, because my kids knew. I mean, my daughter did competitive cheer, which is not cheap. My son did club soccer, which is not cheap. My kids never, ever had to worry about, were they going to be able to do something? And, and they knew that the reason that they didn't have to worry is because I worked my brains out. Yeah. And everything I did I did for them. And I wouldn't change a thing about it. You know, I think about when we ate Panda Express, when I didn't have enough money to like feed us, and we ate like the 3 entree meal for $9.99. I remember that. And I remember some nights, if they were like extra hungry, I didn't get to eat anything except the rice. And I just knew that in my heart, anything I had to do for them was worth it. And it's so great. I love seeing them know that they never ever had to worry because they had me.
Yeah. God, it's so powerful. I think that disclosure is I'm so big on, especially people that are in a position of influence like you and I, to some degree, not nearly as much as you are, but I think hearing that you ate the rice because like you ate the scraps because they're like, that it wasn't always easy, and it's not easy. It is to be successful in the United States of America, unless you have a great circumstance, which most people don't. It is not easy. And next
It's
question,
not.
please. Like, like full stop, right?
I love it. I love it. Holly, where are you going to be next? Where can my people find you?
So oh God. So I launched Hype Boss, which is my branding creative agency. And I had this vision for it. And I found out I was pregnant like the next week. This was a year ago. And I don't know how your pregnancies were, but mine are not cute. They're not great. I go into I just can't be creative when I'm pregnant, and it's devastating. So I've relaunched that now that I've had the baby. So I'm relaunching Hype Boss, and my real estate business is here in Jupiter, Florida. My team crushes it. I mentioned I'm quasi. I don't like the phrase out of production, but it's what we in the real estate world use. Like, I don't think I'm ever out of production. I'm always.
I started to say, I don't know that you're out of production because you're such a rainmaker.
Yeah, it's a weird phrase in our industry. And full disclosure, I work with every single one of our clients. I'm not the one adding the electronic signatures and the one scheduling the showings and going on the showings. Although I love a showing. I love a showing. The other day, one of my agents was like, "Hey, can anyone help with 123 Banana Street?" And I was like, "Yes." I love it. Do you love showing homes? I love showing homes. It's like my favorite thing to do.
I love being in the product. I love the see, touch, feel of the client like you cannot believe.
Yes, same. It's so funny. Like on my way over there, I was getting to know the property, and I love sales. I love selling. I love helping people with it. Anyway, so Hype Boss is freshly relaunched. We have just the most incredible team to help people with personal branding. And I finally have started doing real estate coaching, which is something that I've been doing for my team for, 10 years now. We have a 90-day productivity coaching session that starts October 1st. And it's basically all the resources that have made my team, the elite team that they are. I'm just giving it back to the community. Have you done coaching at all? Are you doing that?
Yeah. So we do Greatness with Glennda. And we do a group of 20 people, and we relaunch on October 2nd with our social media course.
I love that. Oh God, everyone should be taking that. I love that.
Thank you. Cool. Thank you. So, but where can they find you, Holly? Tell us.
So on Instagram, I'm holly.meyer.lucas. Just Google Holly Meyer Lucas and I will come up. My logo is a lemon, which is everywhere around Jupiter. So if you see the lemon, it's probably the Meyer lemon, which is me.
I remember the lemon from that panel that we were on. You have amazing branding, and I love seeing that. And I am so honored that you took your time to be here with me today.
This was so fun. Thank you for having me.
Glennda's Guru. And we didn't have any wind noise.
No wind noise. I'm dying to know what we were on a roll at that FAU thing. What were we talking about? Do you remember?
I'd love to tell you what we were talking about, but you can't hear any of the audio.
That's devastating.
None of it. Not one single bit.
That's devastating.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, my name is Glennda Baker. I am a real estate agent in Atlanta, Georgia. And today I had the opportunity to sit down with my friend, Holly Meyer Lucas, an amazing businesswoman and real estate agent out of Jupiter, Florida. Holly, thank you so much for being here with me today. And as I always say, send me a text, tag me in a post, give me a call. that's what I love the most, because I'd love the opportunity to talk real estate with you today. See ya.
Bye.